Hey guys, welcome back to 48 Minutes or Less, your NBA podcast for all things NBA in less than 48 minutes. It's good to be back. I hope you guys enjoyed our Tuesday episode with our brothers at 48 Minutes or More. So for this one, we're going to try to keep it maybe around 30 minutes or so, not too long, because the last podcast was over an hour and a half. So what we kind of want to look at is who we decided to vote for our NBA starters. And we're not really going to do reserves, just the starters at this point, and then maybe talk about some players that might not have made our starting lineup for the All-Star game, but were in consideration, but just positional scarcity or too many people playing the same position and stuff like that affected their bids for the All-Star game starters.
Before we start, I want to say something about the George from the last podcast, the one from 48 Minutes or More. That guy's team was amazing, but he is a piece of shit. He wouldn't let anyone else talk. But his team's going to win.
I personally like the alternate version of Sawyer and his team. But that was my opinion.
Yeah, whatever. All right.
I think we all agree that we thought our counterparts in the other universe, other alternate podcasts were right.
Yeah. Except I did like that Lewis from the alternate universe. This Lewis I can't stand, but that Lewis was nice. That story was a piece of shit. Just saying. Anyway, so I think we should start with the West and kind of break down our starting five and then sort of like talk about players that could have been, but at the same time, we also believe they're probably going to make reserves.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we all kind of agreed maybe who's probably going to be the West front court, or the West starters, I should say. I was about to say front court for some reason, but the West starters in general are pretty more obvious. I think the East has a lot more variety.
So did you guys want to just go ahead and name the guards and then possible guard replacements, or just name all five? So start with the guards and then the forward/centers and break those down into separate groups, or just go with all five and then just name players?
I'd say just go with all five.
Yeah, I would say all five.
I guess with the West, we kind of all pretty much had the same starters, and I think the West was a lot more obvious when it came down to who the starters are than the East was. So do one of you guys just want to break it down?
When it came to the starters and stuff, I think it's just they're more dominant in the West. Like in the East, there's a lot more variables. That's why I think we are all the same in the West. Just because there's, there's not a lot of variety.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say dominance as much as injury. Like the East had a lot of injury plague. So you have Kyrie that's been out. You had Kyle Lowry that's been out, which you could argue would be decent starters.
Yeah, there was also Steph Curry too. If Steph Curry played this year, you can make the argument that Steph Curry might actually make the All-Star team, obviously, over somebody one of the guards you may choose. Maybe. I'm not saying he would have. But I'm saying, it helps that there wasn't a player like Steph Curry in the West as well.
Well, I guess it helps that Luka's shown up the way to kind of replace Curry. So.
Oh, you're giving it away already?
I mean, I don't think that's giving it away. If Luka hadn't been himself, then we would have been who deserves the second guard spot? Russell Westbrook?
It probably would have been Damian Lillard.
Damian Lillard.
It would have been. Damian Lillard's it's not even in the West.
So then with your argument, then you could say, Steph Curry, if Steph Curry did play, it would be between Steph Curry and Damian Lillard if Luka wasn't how Luka has been this year.
Yeah, but I feel like if Steph Curry did play, I don't think it would have been a toss-up between Steph Curry and Damian Lillard, because Damian Lillard and Steph Curry would just get the starter spot because of his name and everything with him, and he is on the court permanent base better than. But that doesn't matter because he's not playing.
Yeah, you got to consider that he's fourth in guards in the West without even playing 3 games this season.
Yeah, that's
well, that's because fan votes.
Yeah, but fan votes don't count. So, Alex Caruso, baby.
Yeah, he's in sixth.
And Taco Falls.
Also, can I make an honorary All-Star vote? He can play in either the West or the East. I think that he's been snubbed too much, and I just want to vote Adam Sandler in for an All-Star appearance. He got snubbed from the Oscars, and he was amazing in Uncut Gems, which I haven't seen.
Uncut Gems.
So you can't say he's amazing.
Yeah, I just know he's amazing because he was amazing in Punch Drunk Love.
Uncut Gems didn't get any single Oscar nomination, period.
Yeah, I got none. I got completely.
He didn't get anything from the Golden Globes either.
No,
it happens.
It's because it was a basketball movie.
So can we please put him in the Celebrity All-Star game? I'm just going to put in my bid for Adam Sandler and Jennifer Lopez for the Celebrity All-Star games.
I'm really hoping that Kevin Hart...
Jennifer Lopez didn't get any nominations?
No. And maybe Frozen 2 as well. I'll just put that one.
Frozen didn't get nominations?
No.
For Best Animated?
No, it didn't.
Wait, how did Frozen not get nominated for Best Animated Feature?
Because instead of Frozen, they put in Klaus. And Klaus was amazing.
Yeah, Klaus was good. Did they put in Spies in Disguise?
No.
No, but there was still Toy Story.
They have Toy Story 4, The Missing Link, which won the Golden Globes.
Yeah.
Which I fell asleep while watching.
What's it about?
That's the Bigfoot one with Hugh Jackman in it.
Oh, that movie's stupid.
And Zach Galifianakis, I think. Why are we talking
Wait,
about
that
this
movie was
right
not better than Frozen. How are you going to put Frozen as crossover $1 billion?
I don't know. I mean, Missing Link won the Golden Globes. I mean, Frozen 2 wasn't that great, to be honest.
Yeah, but you gotta like. Neither was like other movies that have won. The Artist was terrible.
Oh, have you seen Abominable? The one with
No, I
the
have
kid
not
one?
seen
That one is
I haven't seen Abominable and I haven't seen The Missing Link, but I already saw both of them when I saw the Smallfoot Bigfoot movie a while back.
no,
it's the
this
same
one was,
movie.
No, this was different. It was actually really good. I loved it.
Missing Link was funny.
I liked it a
It was
lot.
just like I fell asleep because the older I get, the less I can stay up while watching movies for some reason.
I don't know. You should watch Abominable. It was
I'll rent
beautiful
it.
and it was a great like movie itself.
I'll rent it at Redbox. Redbox doesn't do games, but hopefully it'll sponsor 48 minutes or less.
I don't think we're gonna keep a lot of this. I mean,
Oh, I'm gonna keep all this.
all right. I guess we're talking about movies. What do you guys think? Should we do a movie podcast now? No.
Well, moving on.
To what exactly?
To basketball.
To basketball.
To the
Okay.
All-Star. All right, so who wants to say what we all had the same for the West, like we said. So I don't know if you want to say it, Sawyer or Lewis.
I don't mind saying the guards. Obvious. I think it was pretty obvious what it was. Obviously, we have Luka Doncic and then James Harden. I think they're by far the two best guards in the West right now, and they have been so far. And I think without a doubt that they're probably going to be the two starting guards for the West.
I mean, it's pretty obvious they're both top 5 MVP like consideration right now, so like they have to be the starters. And then I felt like the front court was really, really, really straightforward as well.
I wouldn't necessarily call it straightforward. There was one player that I think he deserved it. It'd be kind of like when say like a certain player wins unanimous MVP or unanimous. It's not saying that he didn't deserve it, but there were some players that did make it a tough competition for this specific player. That one being Kawhi Leonard. Like we put him in our starters because of his play on the court, but because of all the time he's missed, it kind of makes it questionable whether there were some players that might have deserved that starting position over him. But if you want to run down the other two.
So LeBron James and Anthony Davis, second best team in the NBA, both top 5 MVP consideration. Pretty obvious they're going to make the front court starters. And then, like we said, the other one we went with Kawhi Leonard. That one was probably the trickiest ones. When I did my All-Star voting back in January, back in December, I think it was easy to see Kawhi Leonard. But with other rises and other players that have played better in the last month, it's made it a little bit trickier.
Yeah, Jokic has stepped up his game a lot, so you can make the argument that maybe Jokic's played more games. I mean, it hasn't been that vast difference in like games played that like you're like, well, because Jokic's played in like double the amount of games, he deserves to be it over it. Like it's like 9 games, which isn't really, the sample size is kind of small. It's like 40 games is about everybody's played so far.
So do you guys want to go over like some players that we like think are gonna make the reserves?
Yeah, so like I think Sawyer had mentioned them already. I think Jokic's probably fit for a prime spot into the reserves. The other guy that it's a little bit iffy because he has been out for quite some time now would be Towns. I think that what he did do when he was playing, the points that he was accumulating, everything else that he was doing, affecting the game, kind of edges him into probably one of those reserve roles as well.
I would actually argue that because of how he hasn't been playing lately, I would argue maybe Brandon Ingram over him. Honestly, as like maybe one of those picks because of the way he's been playing this year. He hasn't been as good as he was in the beginning, but at least he's played during this entire time. Like because Karl-Anthony Towns hasn't played in how long?
It's been a month now.
Been a month now.
The reason why I think Brandon Ingram might not even make the All-Star game is because just like he hasn't contributed to winning basketball, with his team being the second worst in the West. And even though the Minnesota Timberwolves haven't been good, they've been good with Towns. I don't know if that makes sense.
I get what you mean. But how about this? I don't know if you guys thought about this. Carmelo Anthony.
No. So
No?
the only reason why I would see Carmelo making the All-Star game was if Carmelo announced that this was going to be his final year and did the same thing they did last year and needs someone in the West. So they do like the Carmelo Vince Carter thing that they did last year. But I don't think Vince Carter and Carmelo have had like the careers that the Dwayne Wade and Dirk Nowitzki had.
Yeah, so I think that the guy that is a shoo-in to get into a reserve without any questions asked is Damian Lillard. Mm-hmm. And then probably, I want to say Jokic is probably a shoo-in at this point. And then everybody else is kind of in flux for, at least for the reserves. Because you talk about Brandon Ingram, but there's also Devin Booker. I mean, he's a guard, he's a forward.
And there's also Donovan Mitchell.
I think Donovan Mitchell will make the All-Star game, though.
Rudy Gobert, who should have made it already, has never made an All-Star game. It's just his year.
Yeah, I mean, I would think Rudy Gobert would deserve it more than Towns just because they're right now the second seed in the West. He's been a huge impact defensively on that team. He's been a huge impact offensively. Actually, his offensive game's always underrated. And he has played more games than Karl-Anthony Towns. So I feel like I would put him in even before Karl-Anthony Towns.
Yeah, I would probably say he would go before Karl-Anthony Towns.
And I thought it was crazy last year that he didn't get the All-Star appearance, but then he got the All-NBA.
Yeah.
That's already twice in his career.
That's messed up.
Yeah.
The other guy that we might see in the All-Star game would be probably Paul George. I would expect to be.
I totally forgot about that. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I feel like that's just because he plays for the Clippers. We don't hear them a lot, and Kawhi is such a quiet guy compared to playing with Russell Westbrook. You don't hear a lot about Paul George.
But I mean, honestly, would you say that Kawhi is a quiet guy? Because he's a fun guy.
I'm a fun guy.
I'm a fun guy.
I'm a fun guy.
Can I get
I'm a
copyrighted
fun guy.
for that?
No,
I don't know.
I don't think so.
Does he have fun guy copyrighted?
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, would you say that Kawhi is a quiet guy? Because he's a fun guy.
I'm a fun guy.
I'm a fun guy.
I'm a fun guy.
Can I get
I'm a
copyrighted
fun guy.
for that?
No,
I don't know.
I don't think so.
Does he have fun guy copyrighted?
Yeah.
So, moving on to what's arguably probably the harder of the two, the Eastern Conference. So, I think there were a couple of players. The front court was a lot easier than the back court.
Yeah.
I think the back court was harder because guys like Kyrie have been injured all season. So, for the front court, we had Antetokounmpo, Siakam, and Joel Embiid. The only other real possibility would probably be Jimmy Butler.
Yeah.
And then you can argue Jimmy Butler because Siakam has started to miss time.
Yeah, and then Joel Embiid's also going to be missing about a month as well, so he could replace any of those two.
Yeah, but I think that at least they have more votes based on fan voting, and I think the coaches in the end will also vote for them, and I think they will make the starters.
And I think one of the other people that could be reserved in the front court is actually front court, right? Yeah, front court is Sabonis.
I disagree.
Sabonis is averaging 17 points and 13 rebounds, along with like 4 or 5 assists a game as well.
I disagree.
As a starter, though?
I said the reserves.
Oh, as a reserve.
I think he can make it as a reserve.
I don't think I think one player from the Indiana Pacers needs to go to the All-Star game because right now they are the 5th seed. I don't think it's Sabonis. I think it's Malcolm Brogdon.
I think Sabonis has a higher chance of making it than Malcolm Brogdon because there's less forwards. There's a lot of guards playing at a higher level or a similar level to Brogdon than there is forwards.
I don't necessarily think so. Like Brogdon's minutes have been great, and he's been better for the Pacers than Sabonis has been.
So the only thing I think Sabonis is one of those players that is more like fans like him more than actual coaches do in terms of because he's got a lot of fan voting and a lot of fanfare because he does what you need to do for fans to like you, which is put up box score numbers. But his advanced statistics in terms of his influence on the game and stuff like that isn't necessarily as great as his box score numbers.
Yeah, like it just depends. Like for me, if I was a coach of the Indiana Pacers, Sabonis wouldn't even see the court. Like I just don't like him at all. I don't like a smug face. I don't like players that don't defend well. I don't like players that box score number shows they defend well, but he's actually not doing anything.
And that is why you're not a coach because that's stupid.
I'm kidding. I just don't think. I don't know. I just don't think he's the All-Star guy for me. Like you say Sabonis, but you're gonna put Sabonis before like a reserve like Bam Adebayo that definitely needs to go there. That I would put him before him.
So you have 3 front court, 2 wild cards that they could fit into.
There's Bam. I did forget about Bam.
Bam for me is a shoo-in at this point.
Yeah.
I think as one of those
Because of his defensive ability mainly.
I think the 2 reserves that are shoo-ins are Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo are the 2 biggest wins in my opinion.
Yeah, and then you can make an argument like Tobias Harris is actually having a pretty great year.
Yeah, but that's gonna be tricky with them
because it's the East as well. They don't have as many great players.
Yeah, but I know it's the East as well. But taking Tobias Harris, so they don't put that many players from the same team, so they can't. It's really rare unless they did it with the Atlanta Hawks because the East was so weak. But like you're thinking about Tobias Harris, do you think Tobias Harris is gonna get it before like Ben Simmons or before like
Ben Simmons is listed as a guard?
Yes, I get that. But Tobias Harris is this is the 4. You think he's going to get it before Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown that have bigger names and people feel like they do bigger stuff?
Well, it's because the coaches pick the reserves, so it's not about fan vote.
It's not about fan vote.
No, it's not about fan vote, but like Tobias Harris, even if I was a coach, I'd probably give it to like Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum.
Jaylen Brown is actually a guard.
God, this thing is so stupid because it's like I feel like they're guard forwards.
This is what we're talking. There's not a lot of forwards.
Well, no, it's not just that. I feel like positioning, like positions there shouldn't be like,
Wait, is Gordon Hayward listed as a forward?
Yes.
Okay, why?
Because
No.
Jaylen Brown. Yeah, but
he plays the small forward for that team.
and Jaylen Brown plays and Jason
And
Tatum.
Jaylen Brown plays the shooting guard.
That team's kind of annoying because all 3 of them are small forwards.
Yes.
And Gordon Hayward has been a small forward pretty much like 95% of his career.
Yes.
Or Gordon Hayward's playing small.
He plays small forward.
He's listed as a front court.
Jaylen Brown is a shooting guard.
Jaylen Brown is taller than Gordon Hayward and Jason Tatum. That's crazy.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is.
Jason Tatum's like 6'10".
Oh, is he really? I thought he was like
Yes,
6'8".
Jason Tatum's a fucking gigantic motherfucker.
I thought Jaylen Brown was taller than Jason Tatum. Jaylen Brown's 6'7".
And Jason Tatum is 6'8".
They're like the same height.
And how tall is Gordon Hayward? I think
Like
he's
6'8".
6'8".
6'8" or something.
6'7".
I forgot they've all been adjusted this year with the shoe thing.
Yeah, with the shoe thing.
Yeah, they're all now the real height.
Shorter, yeah, they're all shorter or a little bit taller.
It's because I remember there was a season where Jaylen Brown was playing power forward for them. Like
I
he would
don't-
come
Well,
in.
yeah, but it wasn't like that. It was just he was playing a forward position. It wasn't like he was it was them playing another forward because they wanted to have Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Gordon Hayward all together. And when you have all 3, who was the better defender is Jaylen Brown. So we ended up with play against like the better.
I remember what it
forwards.
was. It was the playoffs. It was the playoffs without Kyrie because they had Terry Rozier, Marcus Smart, and then because Jason Tatum was a better 3-point shooter that year, they had him playing the small forward. So because of stretching the forward, and so that's where it was like they were interchangeably as a forward.
Yeah,
They were
that's just
just
they
a
play him as a
That's,
forward.
and they were both starting, so that's why I started seeing like Jaylen Brown as like a forward, small forward, rather than a shooting guard.
Yeah, well, it's because that's how they
Kind
listed him.
of getting back into everything. So when we're looking at reserves, so you say, so I think all of us agree that Bam and Butler are a shoo-ins.
Yeah.
Yes, I would
So
say.
that means there's a possibility of either the 2 wild cards being forward, which I find unlikely.
No, we haven't talked about the 2 guards.
I know, but we're just talking about forwards right now. And then that third forward position. So, like, that's why, like, when Soros brings that Sabonis, it doesn't seem so far-fetched. Because, like, will Vucevic make it? Vucevic has been a little bit better as of late. Like, that could be a possibility.
I think there's a lot of players that you can make a case for that third spot that are all about the same.
I mean, can you guys
and, like,
think
that's
of-
the problem.
That's the
Can
problem.
you guys think of any other center that could actually make it? Like at that, like center, because Sabonis is a forward, right? So you have center. So you have Joel Embiid and Bam Adebayo. Any more that could come to mind for the East?
You can look at Andrew Drummond. He's putting up the numbers in terms of box score.
I honestly totally forgot about Andre Drummond. It would probably be Drummond, Butler, and Bam.
I don't know because coaches don't seem to love Andre Drummond, and he's been I guess snubbed as he would feel multiple times already.
Yeah, but he's already made it. I think he's like a 3-time All-Star at this point.
He has made it, and he also, you got to think the forwards haven't been, again, with the front court, hasn't been necessarily as great, or there hasn't been a lot of people that have distanced themselves from other people, but Drummond has just always been, like, dominant. And it's hard to make the case not when a guy's putting up, like, 17, 18 rebounds a game and, like, 20 points. How do you not, like...
Yeah, I feel like he'd have more chance of making it than someone like Vooch right now for this season at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, last year Vucevic was just doing
Vucevic
so well.
was having a career season, and then like Marcus Gasol and Ibaka had just been injured, and I don't think they would even get the recognition.
No, they've both been too injured.
Yeah, that's the problem with a lot of the Toronto Raptors. They've been injured.
Yeah.
So it's tricky. All right, you guys want to move on to what the starting guards that we have? Yeah. So I think we can pretty much safely say I would think, I don't know, Kemba Walker as one of the guards.
So for me,
at least that's
I
a
think
sure
that
thing.
when you look at a lot of the guards in the East, are the ones that are actually playing really well. They're not winning, so that's why I think Kemba's got to be that option because he's the one that's playing really well. That's actually in a winning.
Yeah, they're the second seed. The second seed.
Yeah.
And then they are a shooting guard. I think if Chris Middleton is listed as a guard, I think he should take the second spot. But if he's listed as a forward, then I think Chris Middleton's a shoo-in for a reserve spot, by the way, as a forward.
I think he's in the mix with everybody else.
I think you have to put him in because since you're the number 1 seed in the NBA, you need 2 players. I think that's like an all-star rule. Like you need to have two players. That's how we got in last year. Even though I think Eric Bledsoe deserved it, not him. That's how we got in last year. And you consider Brook Lopez. Brook Lopez didn't have the season enough to do it.
But the way I look at it is he would be but one of those like wild card spots.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be because you can't like I think it is going to end up being like 3 for sure are probably going to be Drummond, Bam, and Jimmy Butler. I think that you can't say that Andre Drummond won't be in over somebody like Chris Middleton.
Yeah, but you have the problem is I feel like if you're selling to the people like it's the All-Star game, you put in Bam, you put in Bam, you put in Jimmy Butler, and you don't put in Chris Middleton, the people the Milwaukee Bucks are going to be really irritated. And Chris Middleton's actually having the best season of his career. Like he's having the most efficient season of his career.
His best defensive season.
His best defensive season. They're the number 1 seed. He was injured, but he hasn't missed that many games. I feel like you have to put him in.
Well, that's besides that, and that's what makes it so hard when like looking at the forwards. Back to the guards.
Yeah.
So, would you guys all agree with Kemba, or do you think there's 2 players that deserve it more?
So one player I think is going to end up making the All-Star game, but I don't think he deserves to just because of where his team is at, is Trae Young.
Do you mean make the All-Star game or just make the starters?
Sorry, make the starters. Yeah, I think he's going to end up being voted as a starter. I think he's going to end up being voted as a starter because of fan voting. And I feel that's going to have such an impact on it. And I think there's going to be some coaches that might end up voting for him. I'm not saying I don't think he deserves it. But because of the way fan voting matters to the starters, I think he's going to end up starting.
Do you think, if he doesn't make the start, do you think he actually still deserves to be like a reserve at least with his play this season so far?
I think that because I think the fan voting is why Trae Young will get in, but the reserves don't care about fan voting, and so that's why I feel like he won't. But then there could be people like, oh, he didn't get voted in as a starter, but he's been playing pretty well. We gotta give him in that. You know what I mean?
Like kind of the way I look at it is like, say your starters are Ben Simmons and Kemba. How many? So say you want to live. There's 2 guard positions and a wild card that you probably want to put as a guard. How many of those other guards that are eligible for the reserve position are producing his numbers? Yeah, like his team isn't winning, but they're awful when he's off the court. So you look at guys like Bradley Beal, who might get a guard spot. He hasn't played nearly as much as Trae, and his team's also losing a lot. Zach LaVine's team sucks. Like, who else? I guess unless you want to reward guys like Spencer or Malcolm Brogdon or Fred VanVleet. And then I'm guessing Kyle Lowry's in a shoe-in for one of those guard spots.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, I think like Kyle Lowry actually, you can make an argument. I don't know if he'll get voted as a starter though. I would say like maybe you can make the argument that he could be in there as a starter, but I don't think he would.
I think if he hadn't been injured for the time he would probably be the shoe-in starter in the East. But because of his injury, you have to kind of put him back.
Yeah, it's the same thing with like Fred VanVleet and Malcolm Brogdon too, because of them having injuries lately right now. You're like, if they were playing the way they were like a month ago before they got hurt and they've been missing a couple games, like maybe they deserve to be in it.
Malcolm Brogdon, Fred VanVleet, and Spencer have better teams than Trae Young, but Trae Young's a better player.
Yeah, my problem is so like you know how you were saying like there's gonna be two more front court, right? So 2 more guards. And then you have the reserve. You have the wild cards. One of them might be a guard. I probably don't think it's gonna be a guard because I actually don't think even with all the guards left, there's more positions. I think more forwards actually that deserve it more than some of the guards. Because when you're dealing with like Chris Middleton, you're dealing with like what's it called? You're dealing with like Jason Tatum. You're dealing with Gordon Hayward. They might deserve it more than some of these other guards. So it kind of limits it.
Yeah, I think that's probably what's gonna end up happening as well. But I mean, I still think that Trae Young. I think he's going to somehow end up making it because of his stats alone. Despite, like I said, I think you can make the argument that if he was, like, say they were the 8th, 9th, or 10th seed at the moment right now, and because they were winning games and stuff like that. Say Trae Young was doing what he's doing, but he's on the Magic, or the Magic are just like 1 or 2 games under 500, and you're like, with what way he's playing, he's helping his team. Therefore, he deserves to be in the starters. That's a better argument than like Atlanta being at like the bottom of the league right now.
Yeah, the problem with Trae Young, and I think it hurts him that his teammates are so bad because I don't want to think that Trae Young is a good stats bad team player. But for me, it's like, oh, if you reward the guy that's playing, because he's not just on a losing team, he's on the worst team in the NBA. And not just the worst team in the NBA that shouldn't be the worst team in the NBA. So it's kind of hard to reward that, I think.
I mean, you also got to take into consideration they haven't had John Collins for a really long time. They don't have any defensive players, and then like his team, when he's not on the court, they have a 91 offensive rating, which is like abysmal. Mm-hmm. So when he's on the court, they look like an average offense. Going from an average offense to like 5 points below even the worst offense in the NBA, like that shows you that what Trae Young can bring to the table as a player.
And I think they also thought some players were going to take a step forward. Kevin Huerter, I thought he was going to take a step forward, but he's dealt with injuries all year long. And then Cam Reddish, one of their picks, and Jared Culver. Not Jared Culver.
DeAndre Hunter.
DeAndre Hunter. Neither of those players have made any impact to help their team. And I think they were hoping for that. And I think the John Collins part is probably a really big issue with that. And maybe Dwayne Dedmon, made a difference for that team.
Yeah, their offseason wasn't good. I mean, so the thing is, like, who do you guys have as your actual, like, two guards that you would put as your starters? Because I would have Kemba, obviously. And then the second one's a little tricky. I would go Ben Simmons only because he is on the winning team. And I mean, who am I going to give it to? Spencer Dinwiddie was my choice originally in December, but he's kind of fallen. And then Kyle Lowry just hasn't played enough games. Fred VanVleet hasn't played enough games. And there's not really... Malcolm Brogdon hasn't played enough games. So I would probably just end up going with Ben Simmons because of his defensive ability. But that's honestly, like, my choice, I guess.
I would have to go with, I think Kemba actually might end up doing it. And then I actually think Bradley Beal. I know his team overall isn't doing great, but I think his stats and just, again, his name recognition, I think he's going to get it. And I think he deserves it. He's playing really well this year, and he's showing that he can be the number one guy on the team. I know you're saying he's like, okay, but he's not. His team isn't winning. But a lot, he was playing with John Wall and stuff like that, and nobody saw Bradley Beal as being the guy to be that team.
Yeah, so for me, I think Kemba's a shoo-in, and then the other guy is for me between Simmons, Lowry, and Beal. My thing with giving Simmons the All-Star starter is I feel like I'm rewarding him for not improving. And it's like, you were a reserve last year. You are not better than you were last year. So why should you be a starter? Well, I think I got to give it to Beal as my second guy. I think as a player, he's probably the best out of all of them. It's the same issue with Trae. His team just isn't very good.
Yeah, my thing with Beal, actually, I think his argument's gotten weaker because of the injury. And not because he's missed games, but because the Wizards actually had a bigger winning percentage while he was gone. So they won more games percentage-wise, per capita, I guess you would say, without Beal than with Beal. So it almost makes like, is Beal detrimental to the team? And I mean, they're not winning games because their defense is abysmal, and that's not necessarily Beal's fault because Beal has been shown that he could be part of a productive defense. At least I don't think he's a great defender, but I don't think he's necessarily a negative defender. But this team doesn't play defense. So, but the fact that they've won games without Beal rather than with Beal kind of hurts his starter spot. It honestly, I feel like I think you just give it to Kyle Lowry, honestly. I know he's missed time, but like he has one of the best teams in the NBA. He's been a great player all throughout. He isn't detrimental to his team. He's on a winning system. Just give it to the guy, him or Fred. I think that's who you have to give it to.
I think Kyle Lowry, he's done pretty good since he's come back even. I think it might end up being Kyle Lowry and Kemba Walker. I mean, again, this is why we talked about earlier, why this is so hard. Because there's so many players you're just like, well, they could because such and such. They could because such and such. And it's so hard to figure out exactly like who is going to be. I think that is probably the one area that is probably going to be the most surprising.
I do think probably Kyle Lowry will win, and I think he's got enough fan voting support, and he's well liked and respected throughout the NBA as one of those kind of great players. He won the championship last year, and coaches love him. So coaches might just end up giving him, since no other guard has kind of separated themselves from the pack. So yeah, I think I agree with you that in the end, Kyle Lowry will probably be the one to get that second starter.
All right, so let's say there's 5 guards altogether that make the All-Star in the East. So you have, I think we all think Kemba, Beal, and Kyle Lowry are shoo-ins to win guard spots, right?
And Simmons.
And Ben Simmons. So that would leave one more spot.
Possibly.
Right? Who gets that spot? Is it Trey?
Is
it Jaylen Brown?
Again, I don't know. I think Trae Young is gonna end up with an All-Star bid. I honestly think that's what's gonna happen. But it's so hard to argue for it because of how bad his team is.
I think Trey's upside is huge, but I would say Jaylen Brown's a better basketball player right now than Trae Young. And he's also having a breakout season too. So unless you somehow can move Jaylen Brown to a forward spot, then I don't think Trae deserves it more than Jaylen.
Jaylen, I think, has a better shot of getting in as a guard than he does as a forward.
Yeah, but then like Trey's gonna. That's not about, so Trey's gonna get a spot. I think he's gonna get the starter spot. We talked about this earlier, right? But then I feel like at that you're snubbing because it's hard because I don't think you should have 6 guards. Period. I just think that's not fair to anyone else having 6 guards. So that just creates this whole like, would Beal get snubbed? Does Simmons get snubbed? Because even though Simmons not having a good year, I feel like he still deserves to be an all-star.
I think what it's going to end up happening is, I think it's going to come down to either Beal or Trae Young. I don't think both of them make it. I would say that one or the other makes it. I don't think there's a scenario where both of them end up making it. Imagine if they both made it. That's 2 players on teams that are at the bottom of the NBA.
But then who? I mean, Beal's a better basketball player right now than Trae Young.
Is he though?
I think so. I think so.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Trey's probably going to get the starter position. So the good thing with the reserves get announced a little bit later. So as Beal keeps missing time, Jaylen Brown will probably...
I think Beal came back already, though.
Has he come back?
Yeah.
Okay. So they got a couple of weeks to prove themselves, and I think it's going to come down. If Trey makes that starter position, it's going to come down to between Beal and Brown.
I know this part's kind of a little bit off topic, just a little bit, but how bad is it that we don't know when these star players are coming back because there's been so many injuries? We don't know. Like, we're like, did Bradley Beal come back? I know he was injured, but did he come back?
He's been in and out.
Kyrie came back, and he looked really good. On his,
but it's too late for Kyrie. He can't make
No, for sure. I think it's too late. Who knows? There could be a surprise.
Not really, unless he has like 2 weeks where it's just like they don't lose a single game and he's just like shooting great. Then I could make an argument that even though he hasn't played enough games, you could be like, oh, he deserves a reserve spot, and that changes everything.
Can I just say fuck Kyrie because he got injured? We're having this issue because if Kyrie wasn't injured, it would have just been Kyrie and Kemba, and we would have moved on with our lives.
Yeah, but
I think Kemba would have probably been the one that you're like questioning a little bit. Like seriously though, that's probably what would end up happening.
Well, I mean, I think Kemba's like arguably he could probably be a first team guard, second team All NBA this year, just because of like
first team.
I don't think first team because you have Luka and Harden though. Yeah, Luka and Harden, and then probably Kemba and Damian Lillard would be your second team.
Unless something happens in the next half year, because Kyrie still has a whole half year to kind of remind people.
Even then, because he's missed like 30 games, I think it's really hard for me to put him above Kemba for this year. Kemba's on the second best team in the East right now. He's leading that team.
So let's say if he has the trajectory, he's going, yes.
Yeah, he's going second team.
Well, that's besides the point. It's not about that.
No.
Those will come later.
No, those will come later, yeah.
In our All-NBA teams. Wait for the summer.
Well, that wouldn't be in the summertime.
It'd be in the playoffs. It'd be in the...
Wait for the playoffs.
It'd be summer, May, summer.
Playoffs.
May, summer. The May, summer, right? May, spring.
Guess in the spring.
Technically, the summer starts in June, thank you, and spring starts in March.
Technically.
Yeah, well, we're in Florida, and it feels like summer right now.
Well, I mean, we can keep talking about this for a couple more minutes, but I think the end result is we have no idea. Thanks, guys.
And I think we need to start a campaign to get Vince Carter in the All-Star game.
I'm actually going to sit down after this and compose a list.
Like even Blake Griffin was there last year.
Injuries or people that we've said?
No, like who I would pick.
Like even Blake Griffin last year, but he's been injured.
I think the West is actually not that hard.
No, the West is.
No, it's a lot easier. I mean, we spent the least amount of time on the West.
Yeah. Maybe. Well, guys, that's it for this pod. Hope you guys enjoyed. Come back Tuesday where we will be doing our tournament for not us. 48 minutes or more, we'll be doing the tournament for, hopefully. It depends because Mark's schedule can be a little bit tough to work with. But watch for that to come out soon. Where we'll go head-to-head and then declare a winner on that one. But hopefully you guys enjoyed and Have a great weekend.
I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Mac Daddy.
Yeah, Mac Daddy, you rock.
Mac Attack.
Love you.